Okay, so I'm making a YouTube recording of this. So we've got a custom lab where we're playing with power management. We've set CPU busy on all the virtual machines, and we're waiting to see if the other host will ever turn on so that it can migrate and balance out the workload. It does appear that we're running at 100% on one of the systems. So I see some red. Looks like we should have some contention. And that should tell power management, hey, we need excess capacity. But while we're waiting on that, which can take a while to happen, we're going to look at the last chapter. We only have 2 more weeks left before finals, as it looks like. And we got 1 chapter. It's pretty cool. These last chapters here can take a while. Lifecycle Manager was called Update Manager in the past. It's not managed, Lifecycle Management. Lifecycle Management was called Update Manager in the past. There's drastic change between the 2 products in that it was called Update instead of Lifecycle, and there's another change. It's called Manager instead of Management. So drastic change in this version 7.0 that I've been able to see. So what is lifecycle management? It is managing the updates. So you need to keep your vCenter server up to date, ESXi host up to date, third-party integration drivers and stuff can be kept up to date. Other things like the VMware components, the VMware tools that is installed into Windows systems and other Linux systems that don't have a vendor managed VMware tools feature, then the Lifecycle Manager, or previously called Update Manager, can manage that. So think of vmclass. I think somebody did a presentation over Windows Software Update Service, basically a centralized server that pushed out patches to the machines. Think of Lifecycle Manager as something very similar to that, is your in-house Windows Update server. So it communicates with VMware servers and third parties like Dell EMC, Cisco, and checks for updates, keeps communication with them, and you can configure it to push out patches to the system. So we have 5 lessons in here, and keeping things up to date is quite critical. Bleeping Computer, if you watch them, they have at least probably once a month or so, or a couple times a year, there's always something on VMware where somebody's found an exploit for, and keep it up to date. If you can break into a cloud-based operating system, there's a chance you could get access to all of the virtual machines running. And that's pretty bad for, just think of how big data centers are. If you can break into a data center, you might have access to thousands of companies. That's really bad. So this is important to keep this up. Already this semester, we've had an emergency out of band window where that they had to update VMware. It occurred because one of our tests that I was giving, I was looking on Bleeping Computer while y'all were taking the test and seeing that there was a 0-day VMware. They'd actually put a patch out for it, and it got listed on Bleeping Computer, and it was actively being exploited. I forwarded that on to the IT department. They patched it that day using, well, Update Manager, because they had not upgraded to 7.0 yet. I think that's what they're doing tomorrow. There's a maintenance window, I don't know if they're upgrading. I think they're upgrading to 7.0 on VMware or patching it or something, but definitely critical. Lesson 1, vCenter Server Update Planner. So vSphere 7, we have an update planner feature for planning updates to vCenter Server and other VM products. So update planner can perform, well, they can retrieve information about VMware products registered with the vCenter Server. So that's all of your ESXi host and any virtual appliances that are installed with the vCenter Server. And it has an inventory of all of those, so it communicates with external points and checks in for any updates. You can also check for reports to make sure that when you update things, that if you update one component, is it still compatible with another component? It helps you make sure that you update things in the right order, so everything still is interoperable with each other. Yes. Sweet. Wait, you said it went to or didn't enter? Okay. That took it long enough. So that's cool. We finally got yours into standby mode. So we're wanting to see that. Let's look at, so yes, group 1 here finally determined that the load on ESX2 was too great over too long of a period of time, and that we needed to go ahead and bring up more computing resources in our data center to help balance out the workload. So it's exiting standby mode at this time. Pretty cool. So the update planner, this is actually a new extra feature here, the update planner in 7.0. So, and it does say here on this slide, it's only available in 7.0 or later. So 6.7 updates manager did not have that. And it says you have to join the customer experience improvement program to actually be able to use this feature. And if you haven't accepted it, it's not going to work. So we didn't want to accept that feature, probably not going to play with it. I'll look at the lab and see, but I doubt we're going to play with the interoperability feature because we don't really want to enter the improvement program. So when the new vCenter version is available, it's going to let you know. Believe most of y'all have an announcement at the top center of your page. The new vCenter server updates are available. And then also in the summary tab, it will let you know that updates are available. And if a new version is available, it'll be on the updates tab. So let's check that out and see if we can find that. So if we're looking, it looks like they have the vCenter server highlighted, and we click on an updates tab. So if your screen's not wide enough, there's any lips that you can click on and click on an updates tab. So Does everybody have an update available?
I have like 5 or 8.
Let me look, see if you're looking at the same thing. So you're looking at the same thing. And so you've got multiple versions. Yeah, you've got like 8 or so. You got quite a few. It looks like the latest one was from March. I don't remember if that was the whenever we had to do that, the February 1st one or the March 8th one was one that had a critical. Are they all critical? Scrolled.
Yeah, they're all.
Yeah. Okay. I think maybe what has happened is VC1 here may have run an update trying to fix something in yours. You've never run an update on yours, so that's okay. It wasn't intended to run updates until this part of the semester. So you're just running a slightly older version of vCenter server. And that's one nice thing is it does show you all the different versions. So you don't have to update to the very latest version. Maybe you've done some experiments in a research and development lab and determined that you needed to update to like 701.100 instead of 702 because maybe something's not working yet in 702. So you can pick what level you want to update to or update to the very top one. We're not going to do that yet. There's a generate report thing. It says interoperability is not going to work without. Let's go ahead and do that. Feature not going to work. Blah, blah, learn more. Just generate a pre-update checker. Pre-update checks. Uh-oh. Did everybody get an error? You have to click the radio button. It probably has something to do with us not in the customer improvement program. Let me glance at the lab. The lab and all of the previous labs of all the previous versions that I've done have us use some fake updates to update the system and not actually use real updates. And I don't like doing fake updates. So I've always in the past just ignored the lab and went ahead and just did an update, the real thing. So that's what we're going to do, is do a real thing. So let's go ahead and monitor, actually we're coming at break time, but if I'm looking at my VC1, what happened is it powered on the ESX host and it balanced out the load, power management wise. Cool. That's what we wanted to see with our power management in Cluster Lab, is that if you get overloaded, you don't have to get up and drive to your data center at work in the middle of the night to try to balance out the load because customers in China are complaining of slowness. It'll automatically do it for you. That's cool. You want lots of automation. So I'm going to go ahead and pause the recording. Let's take a break. So I'll resume recording here. Power management brought the servers back up. We turned off the power management features so we won't go back into standby mode. That way we'll be able to better utilize our update manager features. So yeah, before you upgrade, the interoperability is a nice thing to run through. You can check to see if there's anything that there'll be an incompatible version with. It says it puts out release notes, let you know of any new features that are added to the product as you upgrade. All things that you need to research. Here's the report. I have a couple of exclamation points right here on these two ESXi systems, and probably these two ESXi hosts can't upgrade to 7.0, maybe because of a driver issue. These looks like host, but there's something that's an issue with those. And you could research those products, figure out what the issue was. So you can update the vCenter server itself using the lifecycle manager to install patches. You can also use the vCenter server installer to upgrade the vCenter server. If a version 7.5 or something comes out, you might not be able to use the patch to upgrade the system. A lot of times you have to use the new installer to click upgrade and go through that process to do an upgrade. They keep making it easier and easier as they come out with new versions. But from 6.7 to 7.0, you would have to run the upgrade. It would have to deploy out a new vCenter server, a temporary one using a temporary IP address, connect to the network, and then migrate all of the stuff off of the old system, shut the old system down, reboot the new system with all the old system's name and IP address and settings, and then come back up and working. So that's a lot of times why when you're doing an upgrade, you have to use the installer version. Okay, so I don't think there's actually a lab on that lesson. It seems lesson 2 here is going to be covering baselines and patching the host themselves. So before we do that, let's go ahead and do lesson 1 and we'll be done for the day. And we'll start lesson 2 here on Tuesday. So what we're going to do, we have new vCenter server updates are available. Everybody probably has that at the top of the screen. You can also now go over here to updates, which is kind of, nope. Click on your vCenter server and go to your updates as we were before. Older versions of vCenter, you had to go into the management interface. So before you upgrade, older versions, which you may still run into, y'all are really close to graduation, you had to go into the 5480 site. You don't have to do this, but I'm just going into this one, the 5480. Interesting. Why can't I log in?
Do you not have to click the button that's underneath the water? Password?
We use an exclamation point, right?
Maybe we didn't.
I know I've logged in as I've been before. Could be something with Chrome. Maybe not. So I don't know why I couldn't get on to BC1. Something misconfigured there, but here's another vCenter server. You just have to go into here and go to update. So if you're version 6.7, you can only update through the management web interface. Lifecycle Manager, on the other hand, they have improved it and they allow you to see the upgrades outside of this point. So I probably shouldn't update mine until we're done here on yours, since some of us can't get into the other interface. We're learning the new stuff. That's the old method. And you may run into that. You may have some 6.5, 6.7s out there still. They need to be upgraded pretty quick to 7.0 because end of life isn't too far off from them. But you would log into the 5480 site and you could check for updates. So it's separate. Update Manager does not update the vCenter server appliance on older systems. You have to manually do this. Lifecycle Manager, though, does have the option through the main interface. Go ahead and this is one person. So we need one person to go ahead and click, and that's just generating the report. That actually doesn't update. That's just the planner. Well, never mind. You still have to use the other interface. Now we've got some issues. Yeah, you still have to use this interface. It's just reporting you need updating. Okay, that made it as easy as I thought. So that improvement hasn't been made. So how do we get VC1? Let me click view updates. I guess that just takes me to this page.
You were able to log into the form.
ESX admins has a global role, global permissions. And I've joined it to the domain, so it should log in with that. Can you get into yours, Matthew? Root and pass 1, 2, 3, 4 should let you in.
Were you talking about going to VC10? You've already tried that.
Now I was able to do VC10. I'm talking about y'all's. Password must be changed every 90 days. What? How did that get set? That could have been it. Thought we fixed that. Okay, so I was able to change the vsphere.local. So what we did, we went to menu and administration, trying to solve this issue. I think it was that timeout issue. It expired the password. So I went to configuration and account, local accounts. We made an edit and password must be changed every 0 days. Basically, that eliminated the password expiration. If I mouse, no, there's not a help on that, but yeah, 0 days. That 90 time has caused a lot of problems in the past. Oh, that's spelled right. Well, you know what to do when you can't log in? Reboot the thing. Which means once it's starting to reboot, I don't think it's rebooting. So if all else fails, you go directly to the console. And you make a restart. This is IT. This is stuff that just happens and you got to do. And I want to restart the system, but it's time for y'all to get ready for your next class. When it comes back up, I'm going to check and see if I'm able to remote in. So I'll investigate if that was the issue. I think it's probably the 90-day issue, most likely, because it's been 90 days since we installed these. And I bet it expired and it's got the account blocked where it can't be logged in. Although resetting the password should have freed it.
That's what we do is over here and reset the password.
I don't know. I'm just,
You don't want to do anything to make sure that it's actually working out.
if you go into the, did you close it out?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I can do that. Okay.
Yeah, go ahead and change that to 0 on the 90 up there. Change it to 0. That should disable it. Okay, that's what I wanted you to do.
Now when I go to update it, it should work.
Well, we've had to reboot VC1. It still wasn't working, so I'm trying a restart. So next week, I should have a little bit better. But that'll take a while for it to start.